Sure helps us run the household efficiently, but today we're addressing that low-lying fear and guilt in all parents that the smartphone might be getting in the way of our good parenting efforts. In day 4 of our series, Smartphone Positive, how to get a grip on our own phone in the best interest of our kids. Studio 5 parenting contributor Heather Johnson is here. May I just speak of personal confessional? This nags on me as a parent. It really does. I was just telling you during the commercial break, I'll be sitting, and I feel like overall I have a pretty good manage on this, but I'll be scrolling. Both kids are napping. I'm having a little minute on my phone.
Yeah, sure.
I hear pitter patter coming down the stairs. I chuck my phone out of sight as if I was just waiting there for them to wake up, right? We're paralyzed and paranoid about what this phone is doing to our parenting. What does the research say?
So the research supports our paranoia, in a sense. Research comes back to show over and over again that parents who spend too much time on their phones cause harm to their relationships with their kids.
In what way?
Right? Kids who have parents who are on their phones a lot are less resilient. They're more aggressive. They have a much harder time creating healthy attachments. And as sad as this one is, they report that they feel neglected. They do. They come back and say, I feel like my parents don't care. I feel like that my mom is neglecting me.
And that's the saddest.
That is really, really sad.
List.
And what's hard is, in all honesty, the idea that phones are going to go away it's pretty unreasonable. Phones are here. And the fact that we want really good relationships with our children, with our spouse, with our families, that's not going away either. So this isn't a space where we look at them and see them as bad and we have to get rid of them. It probably needs to be more of a space where we figure out how to parent better with them. So they've got to coexist.
What do you think prevents us from being a smartphone user and a good engaged parent? Is it discipline? Is it control? What gets in the way?
Sure. So it's all those things. And first and foremost, it's this place where we're always resisting. Now, this is kind of we're going to go a little bit different direction, but resistance is the space where we don't do the thing we know we should, or we procrastinate doing what we know is good and right. And what happens is whenever we resist, we actually are resisting happiness. And anytime we resist, we tend to pick up our phone. Right? I don't want to do the thing I need to do or I should do, so I'm just going to run to my phone.
I don't want to do the dishes, so I'm going to sit here and look at Instagram.
It's exactly right, even though we know that that would be a good choice, right? And what resistance does is resistance tells us that something that's not very important is now an emergency. So in my life, this is what that would look like. This is where I know the research and I teach the research and I have a belief in bedtime routines, and I know it's important, and I have the thought that I should connect with my kids at bedtime. And then I immediately think, because I'm resisting and fight it, that my email is now an emergency, and so I can't read you the book because I got to check my email.
And you feel that urgency
and
from
I feel
the
it, and the urgency becomes real. And so I tell them, I'm sorry, I actually know I should connect with you right now, but I can't because I got to check this.
I got it.
And so I got to go do this thing instead. The funny thing is, in that space, nothing changed except I didn't do the thing I knew that I should. That's the only thing that changed. Nothing else changed. And so when we resist like that, we're actually resisting loving and developing those relationships with people around us. So we got to take a step back and start looking at our resistance triggers. Why are we doing it? Are we bored? Do we need an escape? Are we exhausted? Does something seem impossible? We tend to reach for phones when we resist.
You also want us to look at our phone in a different way, and you want us to view our phone as less useful.
Less useful. So if I look at my phone and I really assess what I need on it, I need to be able to make and receive phone calls. I need to be able to tap into email and text messages. And if I'm being honest, I need Google Maps. I need Google Maps.
Heaven bless Google Maps.
Google Maps. When our kids have a swim meet or something and it's far away, I need to know how to get there. Other than that, I actually don't need anything else on my phone, in all reality. And so we need to make our phones less useful. Get rid of all of those other things. Only download social media apps on a laptop or a desktop.
That right there is so genius, because I feel more committed and pulled away if I'm opening up my laptop, I'm logging in, I'm firing up Facebook. It feels so much more deliberate, and I'm not going to go there as often.
You're exactly right. And we have to consciously make a choice like that. On our phones, we don't have to make those choices. It's so handy. It's so convenient. So doing things like that, even turning down your color so you work in grayscale. So when you look at it, it's not as pretty. And heaven forbid, turn off our notifications. Because when those notifications go off, even when we're doing what we want and know we should, we hear that ding and it's like, oh my gosh, I can't keep loving you or building a relationship. I gotta go see what that's telling me. And so some of those ways make our phones less useful to us, and it's really important.
And that speaks to your next point. You want parents to commit to the off-limit boundaries.
Off limits. And I'm gonna give you 4 we all should subscribe to.
Ready.
And if this is all you can do, start here.
Okay, give it to us.
No phones at dinner or meals. No phones in bedrooms. No phones in cars. and no phones at kids' activities.
Kids' activities.
I know, that's so
this,
hard.
Knowing we were going to be talking about this and knowing the guilt that I feel, even though I feel like I have fairly good control over it. I was at the park the other day and I looked around, and this park happened to have, it was uniquely set up for this example, but it had the parents on the perimeter, right? Benches and seating. And they were doing the eye check like every 10 minutes, and I throw myself in this group. But every single parent, Heather, in this circular perimeter was on their phone while our kids played in the center.
Absolutely. And we use it, we justify that it's okay. We've got them at the park. They're having fun. Look, they're smiling. I know they're safe. I know that this is great. But we're talking about developing relationships with our kids. And so remember, if our goal is to take our kids to the park so they laugh and have fun, goal accomplished. But if our goal is to develop relationships with our kids, our phone is in the way of that.
So let's review that again. Dinner time.
Or meals, but dinner,
meals,
yes.
Bedrooms. Car time. And then kids' activities, soccer games, parks.
Everything.
Phones are away.
Yes, phones are away. And realize if we're at kids' activities and that kid looks from a swing, even if they haven't hollered, Mom, watch, Mom, watch, Mom, a million times. And if they say it a million, it means I'm not paying attention in the first place. But when they look over and see us on their phones, they see and hear one thing: my mom doesn't care. Because she's not watching me. She's not engaging with me. And if she was, then that would show me that she cares.
You want women, you want moms to acknowledge the FOMO, that fear of missing out that creeps in.
I know. And isn't this funny? But we genuinely can suffer from a fear of missing out. We are so afraid we're going to miss something. So we immediately and all the time check our phones more than we need to. We check our phones more because we're afraid we're going to miss out on something. The only thing we're missing out when we do that is relationships and memories with our kids. That's all we're missing out on when we go to that. And the hard thing with that fear of missing out with FOMO is that it's really untrue, right? Fear of missing out is based on untruths most of the time. What we're afraid we've missed is someone else's life and usually doesn't even look the way we see it in our phones. And so with this one, it's really important we start to slow down. When I slow down, I become engaged in what's in front of me, which tends to be my kids, my husband, what's going on in front of me, which means I'm not thinking about the things I'm missing out because I'm actually enjoying and living the life that's right here with me.
You're in it.
We're in it. And so we're not afraid that we're missing something.
This is going to take, for a lot of people, this conversation is going to prompt some really strong and dramatic habit changes.
It's hard. It's really hard. And when we talk about phones and technology and social media, we're talking about habits there too. When we look at habits, the research actually shows that we can't ever really extinguish a habit. We can only change it, right? And this is hard because we always think, oh yes, I can get rid of forever. But what we actually are doing is we're changing the habit. So for example, when we're bored, we tend to pick up a phone. When we need an escape, we tend to pick up a phone. We're never going to be able to live without ever being bored or needing an escape again. Those things are still going to be there. And so instead of thinking that we can get rid of them, we need to choose something different to do with them. So that when I'm bored, I don't go to a phone. When I need an escape, I don't go to a phone.
Right.
I need to substitute so that I've changed the habit instead of assuming that we'll never have the habit.
I love
we can
this.
change those things.
I need this. I think a lot of people do. Finally, you say post these rules where everyone can see them, so it's a family buy-in. Heather, great information.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. We'll post Heather's contact info. She works with clients and families in her personal practice, so go to our website for more details on that.